Hello, stargazers. Alessandra Coffey reporting to you. Have you wondered what you could learn from Gemini? Well, you're in luck because this video actually covers it for today. Today, what I will be covering is a lesson that I had learned from Gemini. Even though it was back in January, it's still stuck with me to this day. If you do like my videos, and if you are liking my channel, please feel free to subscribe down below and also to give me a like, a good thumbs up. Yay! Also, too, please feel free to check out my videos on the earth signs. Should be linked up. Hopefully I'm pointing at the right place this time. Linked up above, right over here. The signs were on Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn as well, too. And what I've learned from each respective sign. So with Gemini, first off, what a perfect time to cover Gemini right now, because as of 3 days ago, it was the first day of Gemini. So as of May the 21st, 2020, we actually entered 0 degrees. The sun was actually 0 degrees Gemini. So I think it's an awesome time at this point. But also, I think it's just a perfect way to actually introduce the air series, the 3 air signs that will be coming up. So what will be coming up subsequently will also be Libra as well as Aquarius. So with Gemini, what I had decided to do, the trait that I had decided to implement was actually from a noted author from, I believe it's Think Company. Let me go ahead double check my notes here. I love it when I have to double check my notes. It is Thought Catalog, and her name is Mariana Sharktooth. Cool name, by the way. But within her article, which is 20 Irreplaceable Life Lessons I've Learned from My Gemini Mom, she's basically giving a nice little love letter to her mom for what she had learned growing up and the lessons that she had learned from her mom, who happens to be a Gemini, that were just, again, very wonderful and indispensable. And one of them happened to be, no matter what in life, fun is obligatory. You must have fun in life. It is absolutely obligatory. And that was the trait that I decided to implement back in January and that I decided to learn from. And I found it to be actually very helpful, in all honesty. But to begin with, Gemini, as I'd mentioned earlier, it's roughly, the dates are between May the 21st to maybe June the 21st to the 22nd. It all depends upon the sun's placement with 1st degree, or actually 0 degrees Gemini, as well as the end date is when it comes into 0 degrees Cancer. So natives of this sign are roughly in, their birthdays are either late May into early June. Many who are in this sign, mainly because Gemini is a resident of the 3rd house, or rules the 3rd house, they love to communicate. 3rd house rules that of communication. And with Geminians, it's whatever's on their mind, whatever they're learning, whatever they find to be interesting. You better believe that they're going to their closest confidants, their friends, their family, and they're communicating all about it. I kind of liken Gemini to old-fashioned reporters or old-fashioned newsies who used to be out on the streets way back in the day and hear ye, hear all about it. I went on this roller coaster. It was awesome. Or hear ye, hear all about it. I met this person. They suck and they're right next to me right now. I'm about ready to have a logical battle with them. You know, that is not very uncommon for Gemini, that, like I said, a lot of their thoughts come out with verbal action as well. These are also individuals who love to research and who love to discover new things due to the fact that, like Virgo, they are ruled by Mercury. Unlike Virgo, though, Virgo likes to use knowledge in order to make decisions and how to improve upon with life. Gemini, as I said, likes to become informed in order to become informed. It's becoming informed for information's sake. In a way, they are like their cousin, Sagittarius, or their opposition cousin is what I'd like to say, Sagittarius in that regard. But with Gemini, they're a little more outward when it comes to learning and to knowledge as well. Many times these individuals are very fun to be with because they're always continually learning when it comes to life. And it's always very interesting to hear what they are learning. They're the types where they could tell a story or they could relate anything to you and make anything, like whether it's making a shoe or whether it's about astrology or whether it's about how to light incense or whether it's just how to plant something. They can always relate the subject matter to where it is absolutely very enchanting and rather interesting as well. I've had the great fortune of coming in contact with many Geminis in my past and also within my present as well. So, getting back to what I had learned when it came to Gemini and making sure that fun was obligatory and in all aspects of my life. Well, first part was kind of tragic and kind of sad. I think Gemini would shed a little bit of a tragic tear with this first confession that I have. I take life so seriously at times, probably because Saturn is very prominent in my chart. And because of that, I actually forgot to know what it's like to have fun, that's very sad indeed. That can be a very tragic thing. So, the one thing that I did to try to implement having fun and in introducing fun into my life at all points was to look back at a lot of people who I know who are Geminians and really remember like their sense of humor as well too, because if nothing else, humor tends to enlighten and make light of things. It tends to make everything fun. And I ended up infusing their silly, nonsensical, and light sense of humor into my everyday. So, I mean, there are times where I would joke with myself when I felt like I had like a really life or death situation or when I was stressing myself out. Or there are times where, even in front of customers, when I started a new job at the time, I poked fun of myself in front of the customers. Like, oh dear, I have to turn you around in order to shampoo you. Or, oh dear, why don't I try blow drying that hair off? That might be helpful there. Or, oh geez, I get ahead of myself continually. My goodness, why don't I take a step back? And all these little light-hearted bits of humor actually helped to burst a potential stress bubble that was forming. And it also helped for me to live a happier life within that time period, especially with starting a new job and also with any sort of stressful circumstances. It's just, life is short. You do need to take good care of yourself and not take yourself so seriously and make sure that you're diffusing tense situations as much as you possibly can. And while I was doing that, what was also very interesting about Gemini was within Gemini's energy, I started to learn more about Tantra, tantric meditation, as well as my aunt had introduced me to tarot. So there were also two new things that I was learning and that I was communicating quite often with everybody, just as everyone who is native to this sign. For those of you who I've known who are in the sign of Gemini, I do want to give you a nice warm thank you when it comes down to what you have taught me, when it comes down to the sense of humor. And actually, it's the sort of sense of humor that I feel like I'm probably going to have to reintroduce myself to it right now, knowing that I'm going through a typical tower card moment at this point right now. if you guys are very familiar with tarot. That's probably another video cast all in of itself. But with that said, stargazers, for those of you who are native to Gemini, how does this compare to how you guys live your life? Does this seem to relate? Does everything that I've mentioned in this cast seem to relate? If so, leave some comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Your comments would definitely make my day. And for those who are also learning from Gemini and who are comparing notes, again, leave some notes down below. I'd love to hear from you and see what you actually think about this video cast. And as always, stargazers, always look up at the stars. Yeah, I think there was a new moon recently, so I think the stars will be even brighter knowing that the moon is not interfering within the sky. And if nothing else, it just, again, gives a nice little break knowing how intense situations are right now. And above all, be safe and always be well. And I'll see you at the next cast.